Robbo, narrow defeat in the South London derby today. What's your sort of initial thoughts on that one?
Yeah, really disappointed. We were looking before our last 12 games, and when you haven't won, it can feel worse than it is. And we were talking, fundamentally it was 3 defeats, 7 draws, and 2 wins, and that's been the issue, is the 7 draws. And we've been looking at those margins and how we can turn, those draws into wins, and why it's happening, and why the defeats have come about, and it's happened again, and that's that's disappointing. We've talked about, I think that's the 4th game now we've gone in front, and we've talked about staying the hunter and not becoming the hunted. And to be fair to the boys, it didn't feel like that. I saw them get together. You could see they were talking about what the plan was and what we were going to do, and then to get done at a set piece is disappointing. That's one of our strengths. To get done at 2 set, I know we've scored from 3 kicks, but that's what we expect that. So for us to concede from 2 free kicks is disappointing for us. We need to look at that.
Do you put that down as a communication problem at the back?
Well, I've got to look at it. As I said, I don't like calling players out. It's not necessarily, but the 2 players have both said whose fault that they owned up, and they said it was their fault for the goals, which is great. But at the same time, it's got to not happen. Because there are fundamental basics to why we've got a good record at set pieces, and if you don't see them through, especially when the delivery is as good as it was in the first half, you get undone. So that is disappointing. So instead of looking at a point or 3 points, I'm standing here talking to you about getting nothing.
Looking more positively, obviously, like you say, we got 2 goals from set pieces. That was a big feature of our game early in the season.
Yeah.
It must be pleasing to see that we are starting to score more goals, whereas before we were sort of maybe struggling a little bit.
Yeah, and we had, it wasn't a game of chances, clear chances, was it, from either side, but we did create some. I thought the second half we started bright, we come out and we looked sharp, and I got in some areas, and we had a couple of good attempts, and I know Marshy's clipped the outside of the post. So we were there. I just felt that when Sam was on, we had a mixture, and we'd worked on that, and I felt when he come off, and I didn't want to take him off, but he hasn't played, he messaged me to say he was cramping up, so I don't want the fans to think I took him off. I had no choice. And then I felt when we changed, and obviously we got a different kind of threat then, we stayed playing the same way, and we didn't change, and we become a little bit robotic and sort of predictable in what we were doing, and it meant the sort of last 10-15 minutes we didn't really get up the momentum you would have liked to get that equalised. There was a couple of little moments, but nowhere near enough. So I said to the boys, we talked about that, and I've said, you need to recognise that we've got different players on the pitch now, and we need to offer a different threat. We need to get around the outside and use the pace, and we didn't really do that.
I thought Sam's link-up play was really good. Obviously didn't necessarily get the scoring chances he would have usually liked, but I think the way he linked up with the boys, considering he hadn't played much with them before, was really, really good.
Yeah, and we had limited time to work on it, but we worked on a few things, and he did that. And as you said, it allowed Cheers and I, and on the other occasion Rudy, to play off him, and that's our threat, and that's what Ollie did. Ollie offered that. He allowed those lads to play off him, and Sam did it really well. Because he occupied players, so it's going to give us another dimension to what we do, whilst we don't want to lose that exciting threat that we've got. So it does give us another dimension. And as I said, when he went off, we didn't change. We told the lads what we wanted to do when we get on, but I don't think we were brave enough to get on the ball, if I'm honest. In certain areas of the pitch, we shied away from getting on the ball, and when you do that, you can't build up any momentum. So we ended up being far too direct. When we got pace, whereas we needed to get on the ball and work the ball, so we could then, when we didn't have Sam on the pitch, we could use the pace that we had, and that didn't really happen bar 2 occasions.
Obviously Aaron came on for Sam, and then Terry came on soon after.
Yeah.
Are you sort of looking more at that 2 up top now that we've got more options?
Well, yeah, it could be an option, but I know people like 4-4-2, but if you go 4-4-2 against Charlton, like Robbo is very important to them. He sits there as a pivot. You go 4-4-2, and you don't get that bit right, then you end up running the play. They got wing backs, they're switching the play for fun, and your 2 wide midfield players just end up pinned back. So it's something that we'd look at. Can we go to a back 3 and do it, so we still got that overload in midfield? So I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but on this occasion, the way they play, I think it would have just completely given them control of the game.
Yeah, and besides, we weren't really hitting the right balls in behind for the likes of Terry and Aaron to get down the channel.
No, exactly. And so when Terry went on and Aaron's there, I gave them the licence to still make the two wins needed. So you don't have to set up as a rigid 4-4-2 to mean that you've got two up top. Players can roll inside and you can still have that same threat. But as I said, to do that, you've got to get hold of the ball a little bit better and have possession of the ball. And we didn't do that well enough when Sam went off.
And then lastly, obviously Rotherham coming up. I know we don't really read too much into where other teams are in the league table, but it's kind of the physical test that we maybe perhaps need to test us again and bounce back from it.
Yeah, I was just saying in the interview there, I feel there's only 3 games where we're competitive. We're a very competitive side. It is small margins, and I know we've got to turn them small margins round, but the margins are small between the draws and the wins and the losses and the draws. But I think there's 3 games this season where, when I say competitive, I think we've been second best, clear. And Rotherham was one of those. So I want to see the boys come up to the challenge, but there's only 3 games where I can go, well, we've clearly been second best and not look like we were going to get anything out of a game, and that was one of them. So that's the challenge to the lads, to show that we have grown like we did when we went away to Wycombe, and I'm expecting a big performance from them.